Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Now in today's video we're going to be doing a follow-up to this video that you guys may have seen a couple days ago, or I guess close to a week ago on this channel, where we actually took a look at trying to start from the very first version of Windows NT and upgrade all the way to Windows 7. It was basically a different version of another video that I did on this same computer where we started with the consumer versions of Windows, so Windows 1.0, and we tried to update to the consumer version of Windows 7, and we basically did that, and that was actually successful, and you guys really liked that video, which is what kind of inspired me to do the other one, along with a lot of viewer suggestions from you guys, which was pretty awesome. So if you guys didn't see the last video, I'd recommend you go and check it out up in the cards so that you'll kind of be up to speed on what it is we're going to be doing here, because we're going to be attempting to continue the upgrade which we weren't able to finish in the last video. And basically, to sum it up for those of you guys who don't know, we weren't able to start at NT 3.1, we started at 3.5 and we're able to upgrade to Windows XP, as you can see by what we've got on the desktop here. But we weren't able to go further than that. We tried to install Windows Vista, but the installation failed. It did not allow us to actually go through the installation, and I tried multiple different methods, multiple different copies of Vista that I have, and tried all sorts of stuff, and nothing actually worked. And getting some feedback from you guys was pretty awesome, and a lot of you guys suggested, first of all, try to update to Service Pack 3, because we're on Windows XP Service Pack 2 right now. Try to update to Service Pack 3 and then try the installation again, which is the first thing that we're going to be trying in today's video. And then I also got some other suggestions that if the SP3 upgrade doesn't work, we'll take a look at those as well. Now, I had a couple of viewers reach out to me by email who gave me some other suggestions of things that we could try, and like I said, if the Service Pack 3 upgrade to XP Service Pack 3 does not fix the problem, we will be trying some other methods to get this working. But one of those viewers that reached out to me, his name is Matthias, and I've actually showcased some of his work on this channel before, actually back in 2017. If you guys have been subscribed to me, or if you've been a viewer of mine since 2017, you may remember a project called WinXDiag that I took a look at in that video. That was actually his work. I will have that video up in the cards if you want to go ahead and check it out. But he actually told me that he essentially recreated what we did here in a virtual machine and was able to upgrade to Windows Vista just by installing XP Service Pack 3. So that gives me hope that just installing Service Pack 3 may actually fix the problem. But he also suggested creating symbolic links for the user profiles folder and the WinNT folder to the folders that the Windows Vista setup would be looking for. So that's going to be, again, C Windows and C Documents and Settings, actually creating symbolic links to those folders, and that is something that we will try if we cannot get Service Pack 3, like I said, to fix the problem. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump into it. I'm going to fix this camera angle here so you guys can get a better view of the monitor, and we will get started. Alright, so first thing we're going to do is open up my computer here, because I do have, we got Windows Security Center opening up. We'll go ahead and close out of that. I do have a USB drive in this computer which has XP Service Pack 3 on it, among some other things, actually some stuff I was using for the iTunes phone video, or the Motorola Rocker history video. If you want to get some information about that, check it out up in the cards. That was a pretty fun video to do. So we are launching SP3 right now. I always find it funny how Windows XP does this. It kind of lets me know that this USB device can perform faster if you connect it to a high-speed USB 2.0 port, which we don't have any of those on this computer, but it still displays the message. And it says that there's a list of, click here for a list of available ports, so it must think that, oh yeah, okay, so it says right there are no high-speed USB host controllers installed on this computer, but it still recommends us to plug it into a non-existent port. I don't know, I just find that kind of funny. But now, the interesting thing is, I did this in my original, not the original video back in 2016, but in the last, the consumer version of this project on the 98 PC, I was able to upgrade to Vista from XP Service Pack 2. It worked totally fine. I actually did not install, at least I'm pretty sure I didn't install Service Pack 3, because all you needed was Service Pack 2, and to upgrade to Service Pack 3 you need to have Service Pack 2 installed, but you can upgrade from XP RTM, which is what I had, to Windows XP Service Pack 2. You don't have to go through Service Pack 1. So I believe I only upgraded to Service Pack 2. So I would think that it would work here as well. So if that really is all we need to do to fix the problem, awesome. That's going to be great, because we can just upgrade to Vista and upgrade to Windows 7, and hopefully we won't have any problems there. And it's going to be interesting to see how Windows Vista handles, if we don't have to create those symbolic links for the folders, how Windows Vista handles that. Will it keep the WinNT folder? Will it keep the profiles folder? You know, how is that going to work? I'm actually very interested to see, yeah, just how it handles it. But yeah, you can see we're still waiting for these files to extract here. Alright, so the installation wizard has fully loaded up here. We're going to just press next to go through it. We're going to agree. And yeah, we're just going to start the installation of Service Pack 3. Alright everybody, great news. So we got Windows XP Service Pack 3 installed. We're going to launch WinVer here. And you can see that it very beautifully says Microsoft Windows version 5.1. Build 2600 Service Pack 3. So there we go. So we're going to go ahead and move on to installing Windows Vista, or at least attempting to install it once again. So I've got the DVD in the drive right now, and we're going to open up my computer. Obviously, this process is going to be exactly the same as you guys saw in the last video. I mean, it's just a standard Windows Vista install, but we're not going to know if this actually worked until it copies all the files over once again, and then reboots and begins to expand those files. Well, it actually starts the file expansion process a little bit before we restart, and then when it restarts, it kind of continues that process. So we're not going to know, because that's the point where it fails. When it begins to expand the files on that reboot, shortly after that, it fails and throws up this error message. This is what it was showing before. So it's going to actually take a little while for us to get to that point, for it to copy all these files once again. And I will know on a reboot if it gets past the expanding files phase, if it is successful. And who knows, you might get a totally different error message, which would just be wonderful, but we're going to hope that doesn't happen. So, and here is that compatibility report, and once again we can show, oh, it's actually, I wonder how this installed again. Oh, maybe with the Service Pack it installed the same compatible MIDI device. Because we did remove a MIDI device, which again didn't make a difference. It did not make a difference. I kind of thought that it might be that we were getting the error message because of the MIDI device that was not compatible, but removing it didn't fix the problem, so I don't think it would matter. We're just going to click next, and because once again it did say that these problems should not prevent the OS from installing. So here we go. It's going to once again copy Windows files. It'll gather those files, begin to expand them, and then reboot. And that will be the moment of truth. So I will resume the video once we restart, and we will witness together if this is actually going to work. Alright everybody, so this is the moment of truth. We have restarted. We're on the expanding files phase, and it's right here. It's a couple minutes after it begins to expand the files where it will fail and give us that error message. So we'll see if that happens. And wow, check that out. Okay, so it does the exact same thing. The Windows installation encountered an error and cannot continue. Your computer will now restart. Your previous version of Windows will be restored. Okay, so yeah, it turns out that just upgrading the Service Pack 3 does not fix the problem. So we're going to move on to the next suggestion that Matthias mentioned in his email, which is again creating symbolic links for those folders on the root of the C drive. So we're going to go ahead and reboot the system. Alright, welcome back everybody. So we are, as you guys saw from the previous clip, in the exact same boat that we were in the previous video. We've got the same message: the version of Windows could not be installed, the previous version has been restored. Okay, so we're going to move on to actually creating the symbolic links. Now there are two ways that we can go about this. Basically what we're trying to do is, let me just open up my computer here to show you. We're going to create two folders on the root of the C drive, the Windows folder and the Documents and Settings folder. Now we can either move all the contents from the WinNT folder into the Windows folder and do the same thing with the Profiles folder into the Documents and Settings folder, but that's going to require us to be booted out of Windows XP and onto something like Hiren's Boot CD, and we'd have to boot into like Mini XP to actually move the files, because obviously Windows is using these files right now and we can't move them. Our second option, which is going to be easier and also will create the same effect essentially, is creating a symbolic link. And what that allows us to do is we can create two empty folders on the C drive, which we're going to do here shortly, and then we can run a command to essentially allow Windows to see that folder, and when it goes into that folder it will see the contents of the other folder. So we'll create the Windows folder and we'll allow Windows to, when we go into C:/Windows, it will be able to pull the contents from the WinNT folder as if we were inside of that folder, and I'll kind of show you how that works here. It's probably easier just to demonstrate it. So we're going to start with creating a new folder on the root of the drive called Windows, and we're going to create a new folder called Documents and Settings. So there we go. Now we're going to open up a command prompt, and we're going to go to the root of the C drive. We're going to change directory to the Windows folder, which is again blank. And now we're going to run the mklink command. And alright, so you guys can see that the mklink command, which is the command that we would normally have to use for this, is not a valid command because it was not a feature in Windows XP. But that is not a problem for us because we can use a tool called Junction, which is actually a sysinternals tool, which accomplishes the same thing. So I believe you have to run this from the command line. Or maybe not. Okay, so we'll just agree. And yes, we do have to run it from the command line. Okay, so you can see that the syntax of this command is we've obviously run the junction executable. You then specify the junction directory, which is the blank directory that we want to use as the junction. And then the junction target, which is going to be where it's going to point to when you navigate to that folder. So we're going to type in a junction. And we're just going to put this in quotes here, so it's going to be C:/Windows, and then the junction target is going to be C:/WinNT. And oh, so it looks like it's actually going to create the folder for us. So we're going to delete the Windows folder because it says it cannot create the file when that file already exists. So we're going to go back to computer here, and we'll just delete the Windows folder. I wonder if Windows XP will complain about this, like it's a system folder. Looks like it's actually not going to do that. Okay. Alright, so let's try that again. And there we go. Created C Windows targeted at C WinNT. So now we can go into this folder, into the Windows folder, and we'll see all the files that are inside of the WinNT folder. So essentially this is just like going into C WinNT. And yes, it allows Windows to see it just as if all the files were in that folder. Even in the properties here, you see we've got the size of everything in there. We can go into the command prompt, and I already did it here, but I'll just run it again. We can run dir/w inside of the Windows folder, and it will show we have 114 files, 44 directories. So there we go. That is exactly how we actually create a symbolic link. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go back to the desktop here, and just to show you, I can, instead of changing directory to WinNT profiles Michael desktop, I can do cd Windows profiles Michael desktop and dir/w. It'll show everything that's on my desktop. So we're going to once again run the junction command. And oh, we have to actually delete the Documents and Settings folder, so we'll delete that. And the junction folder is going to be C:/Documents and Settings. And then the target is going to be C WinNT Profiles. And oh, I'm not in the I'm not in the right folder. Hang on a second. I need to actually cd to the junction folder, and then we run the command. There we go. So now, C Documents and Settings is targeted as C WinNT Profile. So once again, to show you, I can go in here. We got Documents and Settings right here, and inside of that we're going to have my folder, the Michael folder, with all of my contents in here, all my documents, all that good stuff. So we have just created a two symbolic links. So hopefully the theory is we can now run the Vista installer, and if the problem is, which I'm pretty sure that this is the problem, that it's trying to search for these folders and it can't find them, it will now be able to find them, and since the symbolic link is created, it will, once you go to the Windows folder, it will pull the files from the WinNT folder, and same with the Documents and Settings folder. So, pretty awesome. You must rename or remove C Windows before upgrade can continue. So now because we have the Windows folder, it's complaining and we need to remove it. Okay, I mean we can delete. That's very strange. Notice it's not complaining about the fact that we have a Documents and Settings folder, but this is weird. Like, why would it? It says you must rename or remove C Windows before upgrade can continue. I don't know, maybe it's going to create the Windows folder for us and copy all the files from the WinNT folder over to it. It might actually detect that we have a WinNT folder, which, if you remember in my original video back in 2016, I did upgrade from Windows 2000 to XP and then to Vista, and again 2000 uses the WinNT folder, so maybe Vista is just going to copy all the files from the WinNT folder over to a new Windows folder that can't already be on the hard drive along with the WinNT folder. So to remove the junction, we're just going to type out junction and then use -D, and then we're going to type C Windows, and that should, yep, deleted C Windows. So now that junction is gone, but we still have the documents and settings junction, so we're going to try the setup again. I will leave a link to the junction program that we're using here, and also to another useful tool called the link shell extension, which basically gives you a graphical user interface somewhat for the mklink command in Windows. And I actually use this program on my main computer. There are actually certain games that I play that to install mods, the game will actually automatically look for, like it's hard-coded into the game, that it will look for mods in a certain directory on your C drive. Well, I store my operating system on my C drive, and I store my games on a different drive. So I can create a symbolic link to allow Windows and just the entire file system to see whatever folder that the game is looking for mods in, to point to a folder on my games drive, and it works totally fine. It's very, very useful for purposes like that. When you have programs that look for files in a specific folder and you can't change that, like there's no option in some of these games to change where it looks for mods, you can actually have the mods themselves stored on a different drive and take up space on that drive, but allow the file system to see a folder on the C drive, and when you go into that, see the contents of the folder on the other drive. It's very, very useful for purposes like that. And it's also, if this solves the problem, it will be very useful for solving the problem we have here with getting Windows Vista installed. So, once again, I said it before in the other video twice, we're going to say it again. Hopefully the next time you guys see this screen, we will have successfully installed Windows Vista and we'll be going through the out-of-box experience. So, we'll hope for that, but we'll see what happens. Alright everyone, well, as you can see, we're not booted into Windows Vista once again. We had, yeah, you're never going to believe it, the same exact thing happened. So, doing the whole symbolic link with the documents and settings folder, and obviously the Windows folder as you guys saw, because that resulted in the error message saying that we can't have the Windows folder on the hard drive. Did the exact same thing, we're not able to upgrade. So what we're going to move on to now is something a little bit more complicated that can either allow the Vista setup to work or break the entire system. And what that is going to be is actually copying, or moving rather, the files from the WinNT folder over to a new folder called Windows, and then doing the same with the documents and settings folder from the profiles folder in the WinNT folder. Now, we can do this by just shutting down the system right now, booting off of Hiren's boot CD into Mini XP, which is what we're going to use, copy the files, but I have a feeling that's going to break the Windows installation, because the environment variables that the system uses and relies on are currently set to the WinNT folder for the system directory. So for example, if I go to run here and type in $windir %, that is an environment variable that right now is pointing to the WinNT folder. So if I try to move these files over to the Windows folder, which I'm going to create, and then delete this folder, the windir environment variable will be pointing to a non-existent folder, which in theory will break the Windows installation. So to change the environment variable, we have to do that from the properties, from the system properties menu under advanced here, and then environment variables right here. We click on this and we can scroll down here and we see that windir is c:/winnt. So I believe we can edit this right now. Yeah, I wonder if it would be safer to just create a symbolic link and then modify all these settings from within Windows. That might be, I don't know, that might be a better bet, because that way the files will still be in the WinNT folder, but then the problem is I think Vista is going to see, because if you remember when we ran the Vista setup with the Windows folder on the rear of the hard drive, but having a symbolic link pointing to this folder, the Vista setup didn't like that, and it just said, hey, you can't have the Windows folder on the hard drive. So to me, right there is like, well, I thought that's what the problem was, and obviously doing the symbolic link with documents and settings didn't fix the problem. I think what we're going to do is, let's go to desktop, CD, junction, so junction C:/Windows, and then it's going to be C WinNT. I think we're going to remake this junction. So that will create a new Windows folder junction, which we like had it on the hard drive before. So if we go to C Windows, there we go. We've got all the same files. So you see right now the WinDIR variable is pointing to the system root variable value. So we're just going to manually change this to C Windows. So that will, yeah, so now WinDIR is going to be C Windows. We got to change this up here as well. So instead of, oh, we should just change this. Well, see, the system root variable is not in here to be changed, so we can't, I mean, there's the path here. Yeah, because see, this is the problem. In the registry, there's all these keys that use the system root environment variable, which you cannot change from here. Yeah, so I don't think you can change the system root variable. There are some posts online that say the registry key, H key local machine, software, Microsoft, Windows NT, current version, system root, holds the location of it to where you can modify it, but I don't actually have one of those folders here. So it seems to me like, and from what I was reading too, there are people saying that it's a read-only variable, like it cannot be changed. So that could very well be the case. Now the problem is we can change, like I've already changed WinDIR. We can probably try to add it. I guarantee you this is not going to work. We can add system root, and the variable value is going to be C Windows. Okay, well, we can add the user variable. I don't think that's going to solve the problem, though, because if it's a read-only system variable that can't be changed, everything that uses system root, like for example, this we can change, but there's a lot of stuff in the registry that uses system root, and it would take way too long to change every single, I mean, maybe, is there a find and replace? Yeah, I don't know if there's like a find and replace to like automate this. It doesn't look like that's the case, because we could go through the registry and change, but again, I don't know if we can do that being booted into Windows. Yeah, this is probably just going to break the entire system, but honestly, I'm at the point where I think that it's just worth it, because I don't really have any other options. And yes, again, we are using a symbolic link. The WinNT folder is still here and intact, so for all the files that utilize it, that utilize the system root variable that we can't change, it will still be able to locate the files. But we're just going to try to change everything in here that we can to point to C Windows as opposed to C WinNT, and we'll see if by adding this up here if this will change anything, but I highly doubt it's going to actually change anything. So I guess all we have to do is let's just restart and see if we can boot back into Windows XP, and if we can't, then we would have just screwed the entire Windows installation. So let's just see if we can boot back into XP first. Okay, so we've logged back in here, and we're just going to try it again, guys. I'm going to pop in the Vista CD. We're going to try this again. Actually, it might complain about the... It's honestly probably going to complain that there's a Windows folder on the root of the C drive. My theory is that we change the environment variable. Maybe that would fix it, because it's probably going to say... this is going to be really annoying if it does. Okay, accept license terms, and yep, you must rename or remove C Windows before upgrading. So we can't even... So we can't have the Windows folder. And then, like, what if this happens if we try to... Like, if we move all the contents from the WinNT folder over to the Windows folder, is it still going to complain there's a Windows folder there? I don't think this is going to work at all, because if we move... Which we're just going to try it. We're just going to move the contents from WinNT to Windows, and same with the profiles to documents and settings, but I think that's going to... Because like I said, I couldn't find a way to change the system root environment variable. And just to show you, like, we can go into CMD and type in echo %, system root %, and C WinNT. And I don't think there's a way to edit that, because like I said, it's not in the environment variables that we can change. We set our custom environment variable, which I don't think took effect. I wonder if it just deleted it from here. No, it's still here, system root C Windows, but obviously whatever value that the system has already set. From what I read, this is a variable that is set during the Windows setup, and it's what the Windows setup uses to determine where the Windows folder is located. One thing we could try, let's do this first. Let me undo all this stuff that I did. Let me go back in here. So we'll delete this. I think I might have some sort of an idea here. So let's change all this back to system root. Okay, so what I think we can do, and this is again just a total experiment, because that's again what the whole point of these videos are. So we're going to set the environment variables back to normal. We're not going to mess with the Windows folder right now. We're going to actually delete it here. So we're going to run junction-d C Windows, so that will delete the C Windows folder. We'll do the same with documents and settings. So that got rid of the two symbolic links. What I think we can try to do is start out with just moving the contents of the profiles folder to documents and settings. We won't mess with the WinNT folder now, because my theory is if we can't change the system root variable, and the Windows Vista setup doesn't like when there's a WinNT and a Windows folder on the hard drive because it asks us to remove the Windows folder, I don't think it would be able to install even if we get rid of the WinNT folder and move the contents from it into the Windows folder, and assuming the system is still able to boot. We can try it, but I think we should first start with the profiles folder. Now I want to see if there is a way, like, is there a variable for the profiles folder? Oh, well, why did the classic theme... Wait, why is the classic theme applied? What's going on? What the heck happened? Only for system properties, because I can go to properties here, and this is the Luna theme. So, okay, that's interesting. But yeah, I want to see if there's an environment variable that we can modify that is telling the system the location of the profiles folder, but that might be one that we're not able to change. Okay, so, and again, this is weird, the registry editor is running in the Windows Classic theme again. I changed this profiles directory key, which previously said system root / profiles, which would again C WinNT profiles, to C documents and settings. So this folder does not exist yet, but we're going to create it once we restart, I believe. And yeah, default user profile. So I see three possibilities with what we're about to do. It can either brick the Windows installation, which is like the worst case scenario. It could work totally fine. It could just log us, like once we move the contents from profiles to documents and settings, they'll be able to recognize because we changed that key, and we'll be able to log into our account just as normal. That'd be the best case scenario, but kind of like a middle case scenario, if that's the right terminology, would be it just has us make a new user account. Now, where it's going to have us make that new user account is going to be the question. Is it going to default back to C WinNT profiles, or is it going to allow us to make it in the documents and settings folder? So we're just going to restart. This is like a lot of explaining for what we're trying to do here, but we're going to restart. I've got Hirons in the CD drive, and we're going to boot off of Mini XP. I'll kind of show the whole process of copying the files and all that, or rather moving the files. So what we've got here, if you have never seen this before, this is Mini XP, and it is a miniaturized version of Windows XP, hence the name, that is stored on this CD. So we're going to create a new folder called Documents and Settings. We're going to go into this folder and we're going to cut all of these files over to here, which essentially moves them. And you see it uses Terracopy as opposed to the standard Windows copying tool. So we've moved all of that. So now we're just going to delete the profiles folder from here. So we'll just delete it. Profiles folder is gone. This will be very interesting to see how it handles this, because we literally just moved files around and changed one registry key. And yep, right here we get an error message. Windows cannot create a temporary profile directory. This may be caused by insufficient security rights. If this problem persists, contact your network administrator. So, oh, we're actually, well, it's logging us into a user account. It looks like it's a new account, though. It's setting up personalized settings for Internet Explorer 6. Yeah, we didn't actually set ownership traits for that folder, so that might be the problem. Obviously, the system account needs to have the ability to modify contents in that folder, but I would think that it would have that by default. Maybe not, or maybe it just created a new profiles folder inside of WinNT. It's obviously logging us into something. I don't know what it's logging us into. This doesn't look exactly like a standard setting up personalized settings box. The title bar is a little bit thinner, and yeah, you see how it looks a little bit different? This looks much smaller, like the window controls up here. Are we, yeah, it's like, it's got this gray background. It's usually not, are we, oh, it doesn't even, It doesn't even have a username for all this stuff. Oh, that's interesting. I wonder if we can just launch Explorer manually. Oh, this is going to be interesting. So we just loaded Explorer. Oh, it's got... Okay, so it's got my username. Yeah, these are all the contents from my desktop. So there's a new Michael user. So yeah, it just made a new user account inside of the profiles folder, which is what I was trying to avoid. But that's literally what it did. Okay, so, but yeah, look at what's going on. Like, there's no... It just created, I guess, like a... But how it knew to name it Michael was interesting. I guess from the username that it, like... Because it already had Michael as the, like, owner name for the system. So maybe it just... Because it literally made a new Michael folder. So it knew to do that somehow. So yeah, environment variables like user profile, from what I can tell, cannot be changed. This is one of the environment variables that the system would use to figure out where the current user profile is, where the user profiles are stored. So that's how the system was able to recreate the profiles folder that I deleted. If you remember on Iron's Boot CD, we deleted that. And so it actually recreated that and made a new user account in there. So now it thinks this is the only user account on the system. I can't find a way in the registry to change that. These are all this is the same set of environment variables that you can get to by going into My Computer Properties, Advanced Environment Variables. This is the same list of them. Nothing in here pertains to the user profile. So it seems to be another one that, at least from what I can tell, cannot be changed. There were a couple of other suggestions. Some of you said... go into Event Viewer. Some of you said, oh, look in here and see if the setup program for Windows Vista left any like error messages in here. And I went into this off camera, and there wasn't anything that pertained to the setup wizard. And just to show you, we can go, like, let's sort these by date. User env, this is probably Windows cannot create a temporary profile directory. It's probably similar to the user message we got when we tried to log on, when we didn't have anything in the profiles folder, or when the profiles folder was gone. And you see that the user is NT Authority Local Service. It's like not even like my user account or the system account. Fax service was stopped. This is all probably going to be the same. Cannot create a temporary profile directory. I don't see anything in here that pertains to the Windows Vista setup. We've got WinMGMT, which is a provider, RSOP planning mode provider, has been registered in the WMI namespace, but did not specify the hosting model property. A bunch of Microsoft fax stuff, Windows product activation, which is just because this copy is not activated yet. So yeah, nothing that pertains to, and all these for 5.10. This is from, obviously it's not even today. And I can scroll through here, and nothing really pertains to Windows setup. There's not anything. I mean, there are some errors down here. VSS, volume shadow copy service error. So yeah, from what I can tell, I don't see anything in here. Maybe we can go to security or system. How about we go under system here? Service control manager, load user profile call failed with the following error. This is, yeah, around the time we try to log back in, so that makes sense. Removable storage. So yeah, I'm not seeing anything that pertains to setup. I mean, can we do a search? Can we, like, file? There's no way to do, oh, find. Okay, let's search for description, setup. Okay, application pop-up, application pop-up. You've reached the end of the event log. So it was only these application pop-ups, which are not even from application pop-up setup.exe, no disk, there's no disk in the drive. Okay, so that's has nothing to do with the setup, like, actually failing. So yeah, nothing in Event Viewer. Some people also said, and I actually tried to do this, but I didn't include it in the video because the folder's not there, but some people said look for the Panther directory inside of the WinNT folder, and that folder does not exist from what I can tell. And let me turn on, maybe it's a hidden file. So we'll show hidden files, we'll uncheck hide protected operating system files, and let's see if that allows us to see. Yeah, no, there's no Panther folder. So yeah, I believe that I tried to look for this in the original video, I just didn't include it because it wasn't there. Some of you said try to use the Windows Vista Service Pack 2 setup disk. Unfortunately, I don't have one of those. The copy I have is RTM, which is, again, the release to manufacturing, the very first version of Vista. So yeah, guys, honestly, I am not 100% sure where we're going to go from here. You guys saw in this video, we tried to update the Service Pack 3. We're running XP Service Pack 3. We tried to create some symbolic links for the WinNT folder, like to have the Windows folder present on the hard disk as well as documents and settings. The Vista setup did not like us having the Windows folder there, and it did not make a difference when we had the documents and settings symbolic link. And you see that just moving everything in the profiles directory to documents and settings, XP just recreates that folder when we log back in, and you need to be booted into XP to start the upgrade process for Windows Vista. I tried to just boot off this CD and it would not let me do the upgrade. It said you have to be booted into Windows. So we can do a clean install of Vista, no problem. There's going to be no reason why we can't install Vista on this computer because we've done it before. We can do a clean install, but honestly that's going to defeat the whole purpose, and I think I said this in the previous video. That is going to defeat the entire purpose of what we've done here. And yeah, there were some other suggestions. Some of you guys suggested upgrading to the one Longhorn build that I mentioned in that previous video. I had a viewer also suggest upgrading to Microsoft Neptune, which is actually, from what I understand, possible, because even though Neptune is an older version of Windows, it's again a beta release of what would eventually become Windows XP, but it has a higher NT version than Windows XP does. So apparently it's actually possible to upgrade to Windows Neptune, even though it's an older copy of Windows. And with the Longhorn build, obviously you guys saw in that video that it did say you could be running XP Service Pack 2 and upgrade to that. So I may end up doing those things. I might do them with a clean install of XP because honestly that might work a little bit better, but we could try upgrading to the Longhorn build or to Neptune from this install, but I'm going to save that for another video, because this video was really focused on trying to continue the upgrade path that we started in the previous video, which, as you can see, we weren't able to do. So unfortunately guys, that is going to wrap it up for today's video. I know it's probably not the result we were hoping for, but if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, be sure to get subscribed down below, turn on those channel notifications if you haven't already, to get notified whenever I upload a new video, which I do every single week, multiple times per week here on this channel. If you guys have any comments, questions, video suggestions for me, be sure to leave them down below. And as always guys, I want to thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.